In this video, I'm going to show you what you need to do in order to set up unit testing in PHP using PHP Storm. And I'm going to start by going over to git bash, and I'm going to cd to my c XAMPP htdocs folder and git clone https github.com pcc-cis234a popular shows.git. So this is the example program I was working on before that shows the database round trip. And let's go ahead and take a look at that. So I'm going to go ahead and fire up Google Chrome and navigate to localhost popular shows. This will take a minute to load. There it goes. Okay, so I can change the pull down, and that affects the genre and type of show that I'm looking at. And then I can also adjust the minimum number of votes, like so. So let's go ahead and open this project in PHP Storm. And I have it in my XAMPP folder in htdocs popular shows. So what I'm going to show you today is how to create a test class that has unit tests for a different class. So if I look at what I have on the PHP side right now, the only class that I have in the program is this database class. And I could unit test the database class, but that's going to be a little problematic for you because if you want to unit test the database class, you have to be able to clean up after yourself, basically. And you also have to know what the state of the database is before you run the tests. So databases by nature are always changing. And so you have to go through some extra hassle to make sure that the stuff that you're testing is actually going to be there every time that you need it to be. And also that you don't add records that aren't valid. So instead of unit testing the database class, which I think might be a little bit hard for this assignment, what I want to do instead is create a logic class, a business logic class, and unit test that. So right now we haven't done a lot of architecture in this particular example. There's an action, fetch titles, and the fetch titles code accesses the database class directly, and then the database class goes ahead and actually fetches the data and returns it to fetch titles, which just basically shows it in JSON format. So not a whole lot going on there. And what we're going to do instead is for this fetch titles in the database class, it's ultimately calling this method right here, find titles. And instead of just returning, these are standard class objects, which are sort of like built-in object type in PHP. It's returning an array of, actually an array of arrays, associative arrays. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make an array of show objects with a new show class that I develop. And then I'm going to unit test that show class. So the first thing I want to do is create a show class. And if I was going to push on an N-tier architecture a little more, I would probably put the database code in a data package or a data folder, and I would put this show class in a logic folder. But to keep things simple, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new PHP file right here in PHP includes. Call it show.php. I'm not going to add it to Git, at least yet. I like to do that in git bash. And then in here, I'm going to make a class called show. And it's going to implement something called JSON serializable. and I'll tell you more about what that is in a while. And then in order to implement JSON serializable, if I hit Alt plus Enter, one of the options here is Add Method Stubs, and I'm going to select that. So to implement JSON serializable, I have to have a JSON serializable method. So I say OK, and here's my stub. And then I want to have a constructor for my show class. And the columns that I have for each show are going to be right up here in this query. So the query is returning genre. I'm sorry, that's a different query. This query right here is returning primary title, start year, average rating, and num votes. So those are the 4 values that I want to pass into the constructor for show objects. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take the associative array and pass that into the constructor and use that to initialize my show object. So in my show object, I'm going to take a properties array. So public function under construct. And then this is going to take a properties array. And then the properties that are going to be in there are going to be primary title, start year, and so on. So private primary title, private start year, and this is mostly just boilerplate here and should apply pretty well to one of your classes that you're using to access the database. And then this pointer primary title is equal to properties sub primary title. And this pointer, whoops, start year is properties sub start year. And this average rating is properties average rating. And this num votes is properties num votes. Okay, and then to make an array list of shows, or an array of shows, I'm sorry, we're working in PHP, we don't have array lists. Right here, this code right here is going to fetch an array of associative arrays. So let's set shows equal to that. And then let's make another array called show list, which is empty. And then for each shows as show, so I'm going to loop through my array of shows, and for each show I'm going to add show list equal new show and pass in show. Okay, so this is going to create an array of show objects, and then that's what I'm going to return from here. Okay, so if I go ahead and see whether this works now, so the way I can access that JSON call, go ahead and hit F12, and then let's go ahead and say drama, for example. This is the Ajax call right here, and I have class show not found because I forgot to require it. And I'm going to put that require right here because right now only fetch titles needs show. So require once /php includes show.php. And then let's try grabbing a different one. Let's do comedy. Okay, so it sort of worked, but let's see what it did. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And we're going to access this in a different tab. And this is the actual Ajax. You'll see what it returned was a bunch of nulls here. So let's take a look at database. And let's go ahead and put a breakpoint right here and see what we actually have. So I'm going to turn on debugging and reload. And I'm going to go ahead and accept the connection and go to the debugger tab. Continue. So now I'm stopped at the breakpoint. Here's my show list. And it has 37 objects. But when I actually continue, I don't get any of that information in the browser. And the reason is because the JSON encode right here works with standard class objects, but not with show objects. So I need to do something special in order to make JSON encode do the same thing with show objects as it did before with the array, associative arrays that it had. And that's what this JSON serializable is about. So what I want to do here is return an associative array that represents the contents of this show object. And it's just going to have the same 4 properties as before. So primary title is going to be this pointer primary title, and start year is this pointer start year, average rating is this pointer average rating, and finally num votes is this pointer num votes. So then this is what will actually get serialized when I try to JSON encode the object. So let's go ahead and see what that does. Now if I hit reload, oh, I have to turn off the debugger. I'll continue and continue, and now I'll turn the debugger off. But here, you see I got the same results as I was getting before, except now these are just regular JSON objects. So the code is pretty much working the same as it did before, except now I have this object class here. And just to beef it up, so I have, the assignment is asking for at least 5 tests. So I'm going to add getters for each of these values. So this will be public function get primary year, and that's going to return this pointer primary year, or primary title, I'm sorry, primary title. And then public function get start year, return this pointer start year. Get average rating. It's going to return this pointer average rating. And finally, get num votes is going to return this pointer num votes. Okay, so now I have accessors for all of my properties. I'm not actually using them anywhere in the code, but I can unit test them and they should all work correctly. And I'm just going to double check and make sure the code still works properly. So this all should work if I go ahead and select drama. Go ahead and close that. It should update, and let's do animation. And then let's cut this back down to 10,000. So we get all the more shows. Okay, so this all looks like it's working. TV episodes. Great. And let's make that 2,000. Okay, so next video I'll actually unit test this.